Hey Siri,
Hmm?
what's new today?
Well, the games have begun. It's time for Bot Wars.
Interesting. What is Bot Wars?
Bot Wars is a series of weekly challenges published by Automation Anywhere. The challenges are customer onboarding, supply chain management, employee data migration, and invoice entry. All you have to say is run bot games.
Okay, run bot games.
Welcome to Bot Wars. Which challenge would you like me to solve today? What text?
Customer onboarding.
Watch me solve the customer onboarding challenge on your bot runner.
Oh, Hi, my name is Azhar. I'm an Automation Anywhere A-lister. In this video, I'm going to share how I use two of my favorite technologies, Apple Siri and Automation Anywhere, to solve one of the bot game challenges. Let's get started. So, we're going to do this in two steps. Step one is the bot. In this step, we create a bot which we want to trigger from Apple Siri. We will publish it to a public folder. We will ensure the bot runner ID has all the required access and devices configured. Pretty standard for any automation that you create. Now, the challenges which are published as a part of the bot war series are customer onboarding, supply chain management, employee data migration, and invoice entry. So in this video, we're going to try and solve one of these challenges. Not we won't be creating a bot itself, but we will use Siri to trigger a bot which will solve one of these challenges. Now, step two is to create an Apple Siri shortcut. And to do that, there are some prerequisites. You need an Apple device with iOS 12 and above. You can do it on a Mac, provided it has the Shortcuts app. You need a control room URL, an unattended bot runner ID, the API key for that bot runner ID, the bot file number, the run as user IDs or the bot runner user ID number, and input variable name and data type. Now, if you are not sure about the API key, the bot file number, or the run as user ID numbers, don't worry. Further in the video, I will show you how you can get all of that information. Now, just a note here, the input variable name and data type is optional. It is only used in bots where you have marked the variable as an input and you want to provide that input via Apple Siri. Okay, in our use case, we're gonna give the input as the name of the challenge that we want to solve. Okay, so I've already made a note of this some of the items that we are going to require. So I've got the control room URL, I've got the bot runner ID. I'll show you how you can get the API key and the rest of the things now. So let me go ahead and launch the control room. Now, if you haven't noticed, I'm recording this video on my iPad, and Automation 360 Cloud uh, really makes that possible. If you're not using the cloud version of Automation 360, you're missing out on a lot, at least from a user experience standpoint. So I would highly recommend you at least try the free trial because it's simply awesome. All right, so I'm logged in to my control room. I'll go to the folder where I have the bot created. Now in this video, we're not going to show you how you can create a bot to solve these challenges, but instead we will show you the main bot which Siri will interact with. For simple reason, because it's a challenge, we want you to be able to solve them using the A360 platform. So this is the bot that you see on the screen. Sorry, it's a very simple bot. Got one input variable which is v input. It's a string type variable, so we have that information now. And what basically it does is it checks for the input as a string. If the string includes customer, it will call a subtask for customer onboarding. If it includes employee, then it will call the subtask for employee data migration. If it's supply chain management, and so on. If nothing matches, it would throw a message stating invalid input. Now, you see, I have not mapped the taskbots for any of the challenges except the first one, because that's what we're going to use in this video. But you could if you're building the same use case, you could go ahead and map the rest of the taskbots as well. Another thing to note is, if you look at the conditions that I have under if action, is if the input includes and then a keyword. Now that is because I know a lot of people use Apple Siri, but there are like hundreds of dialects and pronunciations, and the, how you speak. And there is a good possibility, there's a good chance that Apple Siri may not be able to capture everything as you say when you say it for the first time, right? So I'd like to work with keywords, which makes it uh, sort of more robust and universal, and so that a lot of users can use it. Okay, so but you can always use the condition as we input equals or includes the entire phrase like supply chain management and so on. Okay, so this is the bot that we are going to run from Apple Siri with an input string. So let me close this first. We're going to check this bot in. Let me just put a comment. Okay, so the bot is checked in. Now let me open this bot again in the edit mode. Now, while you're on this screen, while you're on the edit screen, you could just click on the address bar and copy the URL. I'll tell you why. You come here, just paste, and in the URL after taskbots, you see 13245 number, which is your bot file number. Every taskbot has a file number associated to it, so we're gonna need this when we create the Siri shortcut. The next thing is run as user IDs. So let's see how we can get that. To get that information, you click on administration and then users, and then click on your username. Now once you have your edit user page open, you can just click on the address bar. Let me go ahead and copy this URL. Now in this URL, you see after users, you got a number 25, which is the number for my bot runner ID. So I'm going to use that when I build the Siri shortcut. The next thing we need is the API key. So let me go ahead and click on my user name here, and then click on settings. You have an option to generate the API key here. Once you click on this, it would warn you that if you've already created an API key in the past, doing this will invalidate the previous API key. So be careful with that. Once you click yes, you will get an API key which you could copy and make a note of. Now, to note, I'm doing this on my creator ID, but you need to do that on your runner ID, whatever ID you're going to use to run the bot. So let's go ahead and paste this. So we've got the API key. Now the variable name, like we discussed, it is we input, and we know that the data type is string. So let's see if we got everything ready here. So we have everything that we need now to go ahead and create an Apple Siri shortcut. So let's go ahead and do that now. Shortcuts is a default app installed on all your iOS devices. If you don't have it, you can easily find it on the App Store. When you launch it, you'd be taken to the gallery where you have pre-built shortcuts which you could use for tasks related to what you do on your iOS device. You can also create folders. I have one for Automation Anywhere, and this is where we are going to create our shortcut. So I'll just click on the plus sign, get a blank canvas. So the development or the workflow for creating an Apple Siri shortcut is very similar to that what we have on A360. So you shouldn't have any problems or difficulties in understanding. So you've got the actions pane on the right. You can search for the action or command and it will show up, and you can just drag and drop it on the left hand side. There are various scripting options. There are options to interact with applications and documents and things like that. Everything that we are going to use in this shortcut, I have already marked them in my favorites. So I'm going to pick the actions from here. Favorites are basically the actions that I used often when I'm creating shortcuts. So let's think of the scenario, right? What we want to do is we want to call Siri. Siri will ask us for an input. We give that input, and then Siri would go ahead and trigger the bot. So as soon as we call or summon Siri, we want her to speak text, right? Tell us or greet us. So we need to enter some text. Let me quickly get something here. All right, so this is what I want Siri to call out when I run this shortcut. I'm going to change the language to United States simply because I get options for uh, various voices. Now, this is completely based on your personal preference. So we call Siri, it reads this text out. The next thing it needs is for us to say which bot or which challenge are we going to try and solve today. So we're going to dictate text. We don't need any configuration here. You may or may not want to change the language. It doesn't make a lot of difference, but this is what we have next. Now, once we've dictated the text, the next thing that Siri would want to do is authenticate your credentials. We're going to use two control room APIs uh, throughout this workflow for authentication and for deploying the bot itself. So let me open up the control room URIs. Here it is. So let me get the first one. Now, what you want to do is the next step, you want to set the URL. So this is the URL that we're going to use. Now, to make an API call, we're going to use get contents of URL action. There you see the variable is automatically mapped. Now, to do uh, to be able to successfully authenticate, we would need to make a post call. So I'll check that. Now, I would have to pass a JSON request body, and it's fairly simple. So I'll go ahead and add a text. So I'll type in my username here. Okay, let me add another field, another text. This is going to be the API key. Now remember the API key we had copied from the control room. We'll go back to that. Copy this. And you would notice sometimes you would be out of the shortcuts when you are switching between different apps, but you could go back and continue from where you left off. So we'll paste the API key. So now we have everything required to go ahead and authenticate, or rather Siri can authenticate. So the next step that we have, the next action that we need is to extract the value of token from the response. So let me go back here. We'll use the action for get value for key from the contents of the URL. So the contents of the URL is basically the response body. and the key that we're trying to extract is token. Now we can leave it as is, or we can capture this into a variable. So I'm gonna just put a variable here. Let me call it token. All right. So now we summon Siri. It asks for an input. We provide an input. Then it tries to use the authentication URI or API with the username and the API key, extract the token. So till here we have which challenge that we want to solve and the authorization token code. Now the next step is to actually deploy the bot. So for that, again, we'll set a new URL. Okay, let's go back to my notes. So this is the URL that we are going to use for deploying a bot. All right, now again, to make an API call, we'll select get contents of the URL. This is also a post call, but in this one we're going to add some headers and also the request body. So let's add some custom headers here. And the first one that we are going to add is the X authorization. This is basically the token that we extracted. The next header is content type, and this should be application / JSON. All right, so we're good with the headers. Now on to the request body. Now we'll use the same format, JSON, and let's add the parameters or the request details that we need. So the first one, what we want to add is the file ID. Let's see here, which is a number. So let me go ahead and add a number key and call it file ID. Going back to the notes, the file ID is 13245. So back. Okay. Here, let's expand this. All right, so the number was 13245. That's our file ID. The next thing we want to add is the run as user IDs. So let me get that from here. This one is going to be an array. So, and if you remember, the number that we had for the runner was 25. So we'll just set that up here. The next item that we want to add is the actual input to the bot, which will be a dictionary, and let's call it bot input. And here we want to add another dictionary. We'll put the name of the variable that we have in the bot, which is v input. We click on this. Now we're going to add two keys here. The type which is string in our case, and the actual string itself. So remember the dictated text. Now, if you don't see the variable here on the top, you could just click on this icon. It will take you to your workflow and you can select what item you want in that particular field. So under bot items, we input, you see we've got type string, and now the string itself is the dictated text. Okay, so we got everything required to actually deploy this particular bot. Now let's put some wait command, just because we want to actually see the deployment on this device itself. So we're going to connect to my runner machine using TeamViewer, and we'll see how the bot is actually deployed as well. So now we wait for 5 seconds. Now we can have the shortcut let us know that the automation is successfully deployed. Now this is optional. I do it so that I have a more sort of an interaction with Siri, and I get voice notification and voice updates and things like that. So, but it's completely optional, right? Now because we're going to be using the TeamViewer application just for this shortcut, I'm going to use open app command, and I will open TeamViewer just so that once the bot is launched, we get switched back to the TeamViewer window. Now let's go ahead and name the shortcut. Let's call it bot games. You could also change the icon. So let's just select this one. Let's say done. Alright, so this is saved. Let's go back. So we have the bot game shortcut ready. Now let's connect to the bot runner. Let me go ahead and make that connection. Alright, so this is the bot runner that we want to use, or we want the bot to run on when we summon Siri. So let's give this a try. Hey Siri, run bot games.
Welcome to Bot Wars. There are 4 challenges published by Automation 360. Which one would you like me to solve today? What text?
Customer onboarding.
One moment.
So now Siri will try and deploy this bot in the backend and should let us know whether the automation deployment was successful.
Still on it. The automation is successfully deployed.
Awesome. So we should see the bot running any moment on the bot runner now. There it goes. It should solve the first challenge from the bot wars. Oh, great. So we were able to solve it in 2.40 seconds with 100% accuracy. Thank you for staying till the end. If you like this video, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. If you enjoy videos related to automation or PA use cases, different integrations, please do check out my YouTube channel. And you can also connect with me on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram. Until then, stay safe. Have a great rest of the day.